Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Bowo. Super stoked you can be with me today. Especially stoked my friend Paula is in the house with us today. That is awesome. So just gave her a little update on our mom, and that was a blessing to do that. And ready to get in the Word today. So welcome to the Devo. My name's Bo Willette. You could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel, Bo Willette, where we are streaming right now on YouTube as well, which is great. So if ever something happens on Facebook, we could always just roll over to YouTube as well and be there. And all the archives are at that location as well. Plus, I download all the archives as well, so I have them on my external hard drive as well. Man, a lot of work, right? But, hey, super blessed to be here. We're going to be in Judges chapter 7 today, talking about this famous guy, Gideon. Oh, man, Gideon. So many people have heard about Gideon, and especially in church environments. In like children's ministry, there's props and they have, different things and about Gideon and the call of God on Gideon's life, and him in the wine press, threshing the wheat, where he should be on the hill threshing the wheat, right? The wind blows, that kind of thing up there, but instead he's down in the lowland, with the wine press, his fears, all of his insecurities, being from a kind of a no-name, maybe tribal family, he felt, and kind of being one of the low on the totem pole kids in his family. So there's a lot of that children's ministry kind of vibe, and definitely a lot of children's ministries have talked about this person, Gideon. But there's so many life lessons to learn in Gideon. I just love it. And I tend to think Gideon's life, the reason why it's focused on so much in this book is because that's how our lives are. They are like Gideon in many ways, right? There's great times, there's ups, there's downs, there's sideways, all over the place. But very much like Gideon. And so let's get into it. Let's get into Judges 7 and read about that and see kind of what it has to say to us today, this morning. I love going through the Bible in just a devotion style. Helps us to just focus on things for the day. We're not going to get everything out of the chapter, but we get some things. And that's the fun part, is just pulling some things out. And we get to move on in our day just thinking about these things. So early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, remember that interesting name that he was given right after he tore down the idols of Baal and Asherah. And it's Jerubbaal, which means let Baal contend. It can be kind of a little bit of a mocking name for Baal, but that's his nickname now. He's got a cool nickname. Hey, do you got a nickname? What is your nickname, huh? We all, I think, have grown up and we've had different nicknames. And it says, and all of his men camped at the spring of Harod. And it says, the camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. Hey, good morning, Laura. So good having you in the house. We got the nurses in the house. That's what we got this morning. Lot of information. If you have any questions on anything, you might want to put them in the comment corner right now. It says, you have too many men for me to deliver Midian into their hands, in order that Israel may not boast against me that her own strength has saved her. Now, interesting. A couple things. Israel is seen as what? A her. Isn't that interesting? Now, that goes back to our studies and our devotions in Exodus, where God is seen as the husband of Israel. And Israel is seen as a her. Her. So I wanted you to notice that too, that the whole Bible is allegorical to God being a husband to his people, which are the bride. And you see that in the Old Testament with Israel. You see that in the New Testament as well. And so it says, hey, you got so many people, you're going to have to take some people out, or else you're going to boast. Ooh, this is so good, right? Hey, what are you boasting today? What is your boast? Is it my health? Is it my ability to do things? What is my boast? Is it my great army that I bring to the table? What is my boast of salvation? Now, the New Testament writers, obviously the one I'm speaking of most is the one who wrote most of the New Testament, a guy named Paul, very much knew this book that we're reading. And so when he writes to the Corinthian church, he says, hey, our salvation is not anything that we can boast in, right? It's so that God gets glory. We're saved by grace so that God gets the glory for our salvation. And he reiterates that in his other books, Titus, Ephesians, Galatians. He just goes and talks about how our salvation is something that we can't boast in at all. It's something that God does. And so here we see hints of this, that this salvation is not going to be based off of our works, our vast army to get into the kingdom. So what would be a list of our vast armies that would get us into the kingdom of God, our salvation? Well, it might be something like, you might put a list down of, say, your family. My family is my great army. I have such a good family. That's why I'm saved. You might say it's because I got a good house, or I have good cash in the bank. And therefore, I'm going to be saved because, I'm a wealthy person. So you might have as what you boast in your finances. It might be your economic status, or that's what we're talking about. It might be your social status, right? Well, I'm a really good person in the community. I'm on the PTA, I'm on that board, and I'm really involved in what goes on in my town, my city, right? And so your social status might be maybe part of your boast, part of that list that you make. Maybe it's something that you're really good at, like guitar. I'm a guitar player. So maybe you think, wow, I'm saved because God has has blessed me with a talent. And that's why he saves me, is because I have that talent. So maybe on my list, that talent will be a part of my list of what I'm boasting in. And then I got to take that list and I'm going to have to tear it up. I'm going to have to rip it up, because it's none of those things that have gotten me into the kingdom, right? Good morning, Janice. Good morning, Heather. But it's none of those things, right? It's simply, I cannot boast in anything for my salvation this morning. And this is what God shows in the book of Judges, that we cannot boast in anything. See, the messages of the New Testament are not new. They're very, 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 very old. And if just someone read the Old Testament like we have been for a long time now, then you would realize, oh wow, it's all in there. It's all in there. The New Testament is just showing how they're all fulfilled. All these truths of God are fulfilled in Messiah, in Christ. Yeah. So he tells Gideon, hey, you got too many people, man. Israel, as my bride, will boast in her salvation, not in just me choosing her just because I love her, but they'll start thinking like, oh, he chose me because I'm beautiful, or I'm this, or I'm powerful. Wow. There's a lot to contemplate just with that idea of our relationships? And do we enter into our relationships with that paradigm of boasting? Or do we enter into relationships with that idea of loving a person just simply because they're a person first, right? Because they're a human first. Yeah. Sometimes we enter into a relationship and we enter into our peer group based on what we can contribute to that peer group. You know how it is when you're kids, right? It's like you get into the crew, you get into the group. Now, I'm sure yours was maybe a little different than mine, but we had a lot of peer groups. I'm sure you guys did too. And you know how it is. Sometimes you enter those peer groups not based on just you being you, but based on what you can contribute to the peer group. But God says, no, I choose you, not because of anything you do or who you are, as far as your ability to do something, be something. It's because I chose you, because of my initiation of love for you. Woo, man, powerful God. And it says, announce now to the people, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left while 10,000 remained. So this has happened before in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. When war is going to happen, Moses said, hey, has anybody got something to do at the house? And they go, yeah, I kind of do. I got to build a home. And he goes, well, then go build the home. Has any of you not had any kids? Yeah, that's true. Haven't had any kids. Well, then go build a whole home. This is why Jesus talked about, let the dead bury the dead. Someone comes to Jesus and says, Jesus, I will serve you, but I must go do this first. And Jesus says, well, go do that. Go do what you got to do, man. But, but Jesus spoke in these same ways, in similar tones, if you will, in the similar vibe as Moses. And that makes sense, right? And so here God says to Gideon, hey, send these people home if they're freaking out. But the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will sift them for you there. If I say the one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water, and the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel down to drink. 300 men lapped with their hands to their mouths. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the other men go, each to his own place. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. What an interesting situation. Hey, send people down to the river. Check out how they drink the water. However they drink the water, that's how I'm going to sift it out. However they, sip this water from the river. And sure enough, they all do it a different way, or, similar ways, but different from one another, I guess. There's 2 main ways of going about it, putting your face in the water or bringing the water up to your face. And God says, hey, those are the ones I want. And he picks the ones he wants, and he says, they're going to go. 300, that's it. So amazing, right? It's gone from a lot of people, thousands and thousands of Israelites, to now just 300. That's it. Tell you what would you think about going into war with just 300 peeps? That'd be kind of tough. Now the camp, it says, of Midian lay below him in the valley. During that night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I'm going to give it into your hand. So it's a night, effort here. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. Hey, if you're a little scared, go down, listen to see what they're saying, and then you'll be ready to go. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outpost of the camp. And the Midianites and Amalekites and all other eastern people had settled in the valley. Remember, descendants of relatives of Israel. These are people that are relatives. And it says, and they had settled like locust. Their camels could no more be counted than the sand of the seashore. Hey, a lot of enemies, right? Sometimes our enemies seem pretty rather large, don't they? And God says, hey, I'm going to win the battle just with 300. And we're like, hey, God, I think I need more help. I think I need more people. 300 people against this thing that's coming against me right now? I need much more than just 300 people. But God says, no, I'm going to do it with 300. And God says, I'm going to get the glory. I don't want anything that you guys can boast about, right? I'm going to get the glory. Oh, man, so powerful and so relevant to our lives. Haven't you ever felt like that? And don't we always feel a little overwhelmed? Like, man, am I really equipped to win the battle? Am I really equipped to have victory over death? Oh, man, that seems like a big enemy. Thousands of people, right? Let me say this. Millions and millions and billions of people have succumbed to death, right? How am I not going to succumb to it? Jesus said, those who believe in me will never die. And he says, do you believe this? Whoa, do I believe that, God? Everything in me, everything outside of me is saying, don't believe that's not true. But yet Jesus has said that those who believe in me will never die. You have passed from death to life. From judgment to life. Oh my gosh, right? Trusting God's ability to raise the dead. Trusting God's ability to get me into his kingdom. Seems overwhelming at times. It seems like I need some encouragement. I need some good motivation, right? And so that's why we're with each other. Right? I got to take a friend. I got to get with a friend. Purra. I got to get with my purra, right? Sounds like a cat. I got to get with, and be encouraged that, God is true. His words are true. And then Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me by saying, do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possessions? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men? He took the elders of the town and taught the men of Succoth. Whoop. I think I skipped over. Sorry about that. I started reading chapter 8 and I was like, wait, that's wrong with chapter. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his brief dream. Okay, now we're back on the page. Sorry, I had a little hiccup there. So Gideon goes into the camp, and there was a friend telling a friend a dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. Now, this is hilarious. I find this fascinating. Bread. A dream of bread. Of course, we think of Jesus, right? The bread of life, But I think of also, there's a picture in Daniel of Jesus's kingdom being hewn out of a mountain, a rock, and the mountain is a picture of his government, and that government would destroy all the enemies of Israel. And it's this strong picture. Of course, a mountain is a picture of something strong, right? You look at a mountain and you go, that thing's solid. That thing's solid as a what? Rock, right? And we get pictures of God being our rock. Well, here, it's kind of interesting, right? But what is Gideon compared to? A loaf of bread, right? Really interesting. I find that fascinating. I wonder what I'm compared to. A loaf of bread. A bread came down. I love it, right? It's just classic. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp like a big flying saucer bread, and it struck the tent with such force it wiped everybody out. And the friend who heard his friend tell the dream, go, man, that's got to be Gideon. Man, Gideon, a loaf of bread doesn't seem that important, but pretty strong, I guess, when it's going fast enough. You don't really think of a loaf of bread as being I would say a weapon in your home. Someone break in your house, you pull out the loaf of bread, you smack someone in the head with the loaf of bread. I'm trying to be funny a little bit because it is kind of cute, right? It's kind of funny. If you smack someone with a loaf of bread, I don't think it's going to really do much. But again, if it's traveling fast out of the sky, spinning, I guess it will strike you down. And it says, when Gideon heard the dream, his interpretation, he worshiped God. He was blown away. Gideon said, oh my gosh, man, this is amazing. They're having dreams about me. I'm like a loaf of bread, but I'm like a strong loaf of bread. That is awesome. And I just find this cool. So neat, right? Oh man, what a trip. Laura says, just like Jesus is the bread of life. That's right. And Laura also says the battle belongs to the Lord. That's right. What a trip, huh? Hey, maybe there's some humbling there, right? And being compared to a loaf of bread. Maybe we think like our victories are like we're super powerful when maybe we're just like a loaf of bread. And it's, God's just got a piece of bread in his hand. And man, a piece of bread in Jesus's hand can go a long, long way. Right? Like he could multiply it, right? He can turn it into thousands of pieces of bread, right? A piece of bread, can go a long way in the hands of the Messiah. So it's interesting, this humble loaf of bread, right? And yet it's going to have a major impact. When Gideon heard the dream and his interpretation, he worshiped God. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, get up. The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. Dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them with torches inside. Watch me, he told them, and follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. And when I and all that are with me blow the trumpet, then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Whoa, for the Lord and for Gideon. And they're to do it. Man, isn't that cool? The Lord and Gideon are working hand in hand. God's sovereignty, Gideon's action, and they're, here you see it. They're both kind of doing it together. And I love this. Follow me. Watch me. Hey, can you say that to people today? Follow me, watch me, stay with me, do what I do, work as I work, those kind of things. Can you be that kind of an example? Very, very challenging. So Gideon and hundreds of men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. Just after they had changed the guard, they blew the trumpets, broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars. Grasping the torches, they in their left hand and holding in their right hands the trumpets, they were to blow. They shouted a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Interesting, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. While each man held his possession around the camp, all the Midianites ran crying as they fled. Wow, what a commotion. Trumpets, jars breaking, screaming, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. Man, this must have been quite the night, And when the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords, right? And so the sword is not Gideon's sword. It's everybody else's sword coming against themselves. The enemy starts battling themselves, and the army fled to Beth Shittah towards Zerah, and as far as the border of Abel Maholah near Tabbath. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messages throughout the hill country of Ephraim saying, come down against the Midianites and seize the water, the Jordan. So they just go after, and after they start pursuing the enemies, right? Hey, always be on the offensive, right? I love that. I love that idea. So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they took the waters of the Jordan, and they also captured 2 of the Midianite leaders, and they killed them. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb, and they pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan. Kind of gruesome, right? Military, can be rough, right? War's not the easiest thing to swallow. But wow, how powerful, right? I mean, God uses this dude Gideon, and in the most unique ways. I don't know how he's using you and how he's going to use me today, but it might be in the most unique ways. It might sound like a shout. It might be like a jar breaking. It might be like, the enemy running in confusion. It might be something that's just odd, but let me be open to God doing that great work, his unique work. And boy, does he do a unique work in everybody. It's so different. And that leads me to not, to be real patient with the way I look at other people too, in the body of Christ. Other believers, God's doing a unique work. I might not understand it all, and I don't, but what I can do is rest that our God is sovereign, and he's doing a work in people. I can trust that. I can believe that. It might look a little different than what I think. It might look a lot different than what I think, but I can put my rest in that today. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining me. Dwell on Gideon a little bit today, and what he learned and what we learned as well. Take care. Bye-bye.